Tonight, free and on their way home after months-long historic negotiations. Wall Street Journal reporter Evan Gershkovich and Marine veteran Paul Whelan, along with 14 others, are out of Russian prisons.
Their brutal ordeal is over, and they're free.
The new details behind what went into the prisoner swap and who was released to Russia in exchange.
It is difficult to send back a convicted criminal to secure the release of an innocent American.
The CBS Evening News starts now. Two American journalists and a U.S. Marine veteran are free tonight following one of the largest prisoner exchanges between the U.S. and Russia since the end of the Cold War. Good evening, I'm Nora O'Donnell, and thank you for being with us. Here they are holding the American flag. You can see Evan Gershkovich, the Wall Street Journal reporter, smiling from ear to ear. They are in the air right now, headed for Joint Base Andrews in Maryland, where they will be met by the president and vice president late tonight. The White House calls it the most complex exchange in history, and here's why. It happened in Turkey and involved 8 nations, 24 prisoners, and months of behind-the-scenes negotiations. CBS's Nancy Cordes is at the White House with more on how this deal came through.
Video from Russian TV shows reporter Evan Gershkovich and Marine veteran Paul Whelan being walked across a tarmac and onto an awaiting plane. The news this morning sparking applause at the Wall Street Journal. Their colleague released after 16 months in captivity. Whelan was held for nearly 6 years. Today, the U.S. government released this picture of both men coming home, along with Russian-American radio reporter Alsu Kurmasheva, who was arrested last October.
All 3 falsely accused of being spies.
President Biden celebrated today alongside the families of the freed detainees. Kurmasheva's daughters got to speak with her by phone from the Oval Office.
It's been an incredible day. That's something that we've been fighting for all these months.
Among the 24 prisoners released by 7 different countries, Pulitzer Prize winner and U.S. green card holder Vladimir Kara-Murza. The outspoken Russia critic had been imprisoned there on treason charges since 2022. Whelan was arrested after traveling to Russia for a wedding in 2018, and he languished in a penal colony even as other Americans, including Trevor Reed and Brittany Griner, were released before him.
Today,
National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan grew emotional today as he described the delicate, months-long negotiations.
Today was a very good day, and we're going to build on it.
The entire deal hinged on the release of Vadim Krasikov, a suspected Russian spy serving a life sentence in Germany for murder. The U.S. also released 3 Russians accused of fraud and cybercrimes.
So thankfully we got some out, and they got a few thugs in return.
Members of Congress hailed the swap today, but former President Donald Trump did not, writing, "We never make good deals at anything, but especially hostage swaps." He has claimed he could get a better deal, prompting this reaction from Biden.
Why didn't he do it as president?
And Nancy Cordes joins us now from the White House. Nancy, we saw the families there with President Biden. They must be ecstatic, waiting for this moment for years. What are you hearing from the families?
Nora, the Whelan family says they're deeply grateful to everyone, but also they candidly said that it's going to take time for Paul to adjust after more than 2,000 days in captivity. We're also hearing incredible stories tonight of perseverance. The Wall Street Journal reported today that just before he was freed, Gershkovich submitted a formal request to Russian President Vladimir Putin for a sit-down interview. Always thinking like a reporter, even from prison.
Very interesting, Nancy. Thank you. In the race for the White House, Vice President Kamala Harris has a deadline fast approaching to pick a running mate to join her campaign. CBS's Ed O'Keefe reports that several key names remain in the mix.
Speaking today at the funeral for the late Texas Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee, Vice President Harris seemed to get ahead of herself.
Which, as a United States Senator, I was proud to co-sponsor, and then as Vice President, it was my honor with the President. It was my honor.
Harris is facing the biggest decision yet of her campaign, who to pick as a running mate. And CBS News has learned at least 6 men have had calls with her team this week about the job. 4 governors, a senator, and a cabinet secretary. As they continue sharing information with her team, Pete Buttigieg dodged questions about his chances.
What I will say is I think so highly of her as a leader, and I'm really proud to serve with her in this administration.
Where the values of hard work...
Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker released this video touting his record.
There's no better place to see the change possible under Democratic leadership than here in Illinois.
And Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, a former high school teacher, marveled he's in the mix at all.
I don't know if every high school geography teacher expects to be in this position at some point, but it is very strange to be running on my treadmill and have people talking about the things that are there, and I scream back, this guy is too old. I'm running my butt off here on the treadmill.
As Harris faces scrutiny for her past work on immigration, in a new ad, she's highlighting her time as California Attorney General.
Kamala Harris prosecuted transnational gang members and got them sentenced to prison. Trump is trying to avoid being sentenced to prison.
But former President Donald Trump and his running mate, Senator J.D. Vance, keep raising doubts about her focus on the root causes of immigration. Vance spoke today to CBS News while touring the U.S.-Mexico border in Arizona.
I think the root causes of illegal immigration are that Kamala Harris refuses to do her job. And that's what we have to focus on.
Now, one indication of how well campaigns are doing is how much money they raise. Today, the Trump campaign said it raised nearly $139 million total last month. While we don't yet know how much Harris raised in July, remember she raised $200 million in just her first 6 days as a candidate, Nora.
This race is on. All right. Ed O'Keefe, thank you so much. Well, today Israel announced that a key architect of the October 7th attacks is dead, 300 days after Hamas killed nearly 1,200 people in Israel and took hundreds more hostage. Tensions in the region are on the rise, with Iran and its terror proxies vowing fierce revenge on Israel for the recent killings of senior leaders of Hamas and Hezbollah. CBS's Deborah Patta reports from East Jerusalem.
Amid calls for revenge, thousands turned out to mourn the assassination of Hamas political leader Ismail Haniyeh in Tehran. Leading the prayers, Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, who has vowed a harsh punishment in response. Hamas says an Israeli strike is to blame, but the New York Times reports a bomb was smuggled into this house 2 months before the assassination. Israel has not claimed responsibility, even though just a few hours before Haniyeh was killed, it freely admitted to taking out a Hezbollah commander, Fouad Shakur, who was buried in Beirut today. Speaking via video link because he's in hiding, Hezbollah leader Hassan Nasrallah promised to avenge Shakur's death, saying Israel should expect rage and revenge on all fronts. Instead, Israel claimed another win today. The military announced it had killed senior Hamas leader Mohammed Deif over 2 weeks ago in Gaza. He's one of the October 7 masterminds who's been on Israel's most wanted list for decades and reportedly had survived 7 other assassination attempts. Hamas claims he survived this one too. Israel says it was a precision strike. More than 90 people were also killed in that blast, among them children. Just last week, there was renewed hope for a hostage deal, but after these twin assassinations, that's given way to fears of a wider regional war.
Today marks 300 days of captivity for those taken hostage in Gaza. In nationwide protest, families and friends said it had been 300 days of abandonment. Nora?
Deborah Patta, thank you. An Illinois sheriff tells CBS News the former deputy who shot and killed Sonia Massey inside her home had not only been trained, but retrained to avoid that type of unwarranted lethal force. In an interview with CBS's Roxana Saberi, the sheriff gave us a harsh assessment of the former deputy charged with Massey's murder.
This was a rogue individual that acted outside the scope of his authority. He's been arrested, and he will pay the price.
Sangamon County Sheriff Jack Campbell says when he hired Deputy Sean Grayson in May of last year, he received twice as much training as other new deputies.
He had all the training he needed, he just didn't use it.
So how did he slip through the cracks like that?
I don't know.
Now Grayson is being held in a local jail after being charged with 3 counts of first-degree murder for killing Sonia Massey on July 6th. CBS News has learned that Grayson had a history of disciplinary issues at other law enforcement agencies, including allegations he put false information in his police reports and once disobeyed a command to end a high-speed chase.
Are you disappointed that you didn't receive that?
I would have rather had it, yes.
Would it have changed your decision to hire him?
I can't speculate.
Grayson also pleaded guilty twice to driving under the influence of alcohol in 2015 and 16.
Did that raise any red flags?
No, it's not a red flag.
One, DUI, people might think, okay, a mistake. But two, does he have a drinking problem? That didn't raise any concerns for you?
There was nothing in his past at all that would decertify him as an officer in Illinois.
In a community meeting on Monday, residents called for the sheriff to resign.
Coming out here and saying you won't resign before you heard from anybody in the community is not acting in good faith.
What steps can you take to rebuild trust in you and your office?
I was elected to run the Sangamon County Sheriff's Office overwhelmingly twice, and that responsibility means in good times and in bad.
What could you and your office have done better?
I don't think there's much we could have done better.
Grayson has been fired from the sheriff's office here in Sangamon County. He has pleaded not guilty to the murder charges. When reached by CBS News today, his attorney declined to comment. Nora?
Roxana, thank you. That was a very revealing interview. Let's turn now to the southern border, where the number of migrant apprehensions has dropped dramatically since the beginning of the year. CBS's Adam Yamaguchi spoke to a border agent near Tucson, Arizona, to find out what's working.
On this desolate stretch of the Arizona-Mexico border, we rode along with Border Patrol agents searching for migrants. Months ago, the Tucson sector saw record levels of illegal crossings. Today, it's much quieter.
How many illegal apprehensions are you conducting these days?
So right now, we are averaging anywhere from 200 to 400.
What was that number like 7, 8 months ago?
You're talking about 1,800, 2,000 a day.
7 months ago, when the U.S. was seeing record numbers of migrants illegally crossing into the U.S., a number of camps like this were set up all along the border to provide refuge for migrants as they are awaiting Border Patrol processing. But since that time, most of these camps have been dismantled or sit abandoned like this.
Since President Biden's executive order in June restricted asylum access, migrant apprehensions have dropped to their lowest level in years. Department of Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas defended the administration's actions.
The asylum system is open. The border is not. People need to take the lawful, safe, and orderly pathways.
At this crowded migrant shelter just across the border in Nogales, Mexico, we saw the policy's impact. With few resources, volunteers help feed migrants and teach them about the immigration process. For Miguel Flores, it's a chance at a new life away from cartel violence in central Mexico. He's been here with his family for 3 months.
Why are you trying to get to the U.S.?
Not a decision I wanted to make, he says. But for the safety of me and my family, I couldn't stay. Every morning he tries to get an appointment through a U.S. government app for asylum seekers. Less than 1,500 are available each day.
How long will you continue to do this here?
¿Por cuánto tiempo esperas esperar?
I don't know, he says, but I have faith, God willing, that I will get an appointment.
The scorching summer months typically see a drop in illegal crossings, though there's been a sharper decline this year. But political turmoil in Venezuela and elsewhere could fuel yet another surge. Nora?
Adam Yamaguchi, thank you very much. Florida's governor has issued a state of emergency ahead of a potential tropical storm. We'll have the forecast next. And later, Simone Biles makes Olympics history. Breaking tonight, the governor of Florida is declaring a state of emergency ahead of what could become Tropical Storm Debbie. Forecasters are tracking a system that could strengthen into a tropical storm this weekend or early next week, dumping heavy rain in Florida before possibly pushing north into Georgia and the Carolinas. Now, this consumer alert, U.S. transportation officials are proposing a new rule to save families serious money on airfare. The rule would ban airlines from charging fees for families with children 13 and younger to sit together on a flight and impose penalties for airlines that don't comply. The Transportation Department estimates this could save a family of 4 as much as $200 per round trip. Eye on America is next with a look at the aging population of the family farmer and the program hoping to grow the next generation. on America tonight examines one of the greatest challenges facing the American family farm, aging. The average age of a farmer is now 58, with a third over 65. CBS's Meg Oliver looks at an innovative program to cultivate the next generation of American farmers.
On an acre of land in Cream Ridge, New Jersey, Christina Couch is a one-woman force.
What are you growing here?
These are sugar snap peas.
And how tall will they get?
About 6+ feet.
Months of prepping, planting, and nurturing 7 days a week have turned her brown field into tidy rows of lush vegetables and herbs.
Last time we were here, they were all the way down to the ground. Now they're up to our shoulders.
Couch, a former cook, is now a newly minted farmer.
We're growing a lot of specialty varieties, so when you go to a restaurant, you see a fancy, colorful beet or a beautiful garnish or a delicate herb.
At 26 years old, she's more than 3 decades younger than the average farmer in the U.S.
Nearly half of the nation's farms are owned by farmers 65 or older, making them the oldest workforce in the country. Why is it so hard to break into farming?
Well, many people are not raised on a farm.
Professor and third-generation farmer Bill Lubick is Couch's mentor and actively recruiting the next generation at the Beginner Farmer Training Program at Rutgers University in New Jersey.
We absolutely have to have a next generation of farmers to produce food for us.
The 3-phase program begins with online classes covering farming basics, followed by hands-on training. Select students develop a farm business plan and put it into action. They can rent land from the program with access to equipment and agricultural experts.
The radiation from the sun will break that down. And we are attracting a very diverse group of people into our program. 60% are women, almost that many percentage are minorities.
And you just pluck it right off.
Novices like Couch, many without a farm background, are seeking customers in a non-traditional route.
What does your generation bring to farming?
We're just going about farming a bit differently, a little bit against the grain, and leveraging things like social media, like fundraising.
Just let the ground get nice and moist.
And just building communities that people are attracted to, want to support young farmers.
Hola. On this day, greens that were picked by Couch just hours earlier were delivered to Jasper Stone Restaurant.
This is little gem lettuce.
This is where she used to work as a line cook and realized her dream of farming.
I just had this light bulb moment that I could grow this and help fill the gap so that we don't have to get produce from so far away to put on the tables at restaurants.
Now she's proud to have her locally grown produce turned into delicious salads.
It is the hardest job I've ever had. It is really, really difficult. But at the end of the day, I wouldn't trade it for anything.
Cultivating tomorrow's food supply with growing satisfaction. For Eye on America, I'm Meg Oliver in Cream Ridge, New Jersey.
An Olympic update is next with more record-breaking performances by Team USA.
Tonight's Eye on America is sponsored by Prudential, protecting retirement and your life's work. Who's your rock?
Finally tonight, American women grabbed the headlines and most of the U.S. medals on Day 6 of the Summer Olympics. Simone Biles proved she is the best in the world, winning gold in the women's gymnastics all-around final, the first American to win that event twice. Teammate Suni Lee took home the bronze thanks to a terrific performance on the uneven bars. Katie Ledecky was busy setting records of her own, grabbing the silver medal in the 4x200-meter freestyle relay. Her 13th overall medal makes her the most decorated female Olympian in U.S. history. And the United States women's fencing team lunged their way to their first ever gold medal by beating Italy. Team USA still holds the overall lead in the medal count with 37, including 9 gold. And that is tonight's CBS Evening News. I'm Norah O'Donnell. Good night.